What's up, In Our Issues crew? We are back and better than ever. I'm Nathan, and today, Bill, Amanda, and I discuss relationships and how our mental health can affect them. I have also temporarily teleported to the fuzzy realm of 360p resolution because the camera we used for me wasn't filming in HD. Oops. It's fuzzy in here, y'all. Without further ado, here's the IOI crew.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
To In Our Issues. Today, we're here to talk about mental illness and relationships of various kinds.
Yes, platonic, romantic, it doesn't matter. Family, we could do family.
Family.
I don't know what that accent was. I'm so sorry. But we're here to talk about relationships while struggling with your mental health.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an important thing. It's for both parties.
I went out with this girl for a few times, and
For a few times.
she said,
I like where this is going.
She said to me, we ran into each other. She said to me, I told my boyfriend that if you were on the right medicine, we'd be married now. Now, mind you, we never went to a jewelry store together, never looked at a ring, never talked about it. And I said, not to her, but in my head, I said, that's interesting because it's important to be on the right medicine. If I'd have been on the right medicine, there wouldn't have been a second date. That's just all there is to it.
Something that we talked about, I think in a previous episode, I think it might have been the CPTSD episode, was self-abandonment, which I think is something that is like a theme that happens in relationships, at least for myself. I can't speak for the both of you, but
Can we talk about that today? Because that's going to be
going, but that might be me.
Okay.
Let's go.
So essentially what self-abandoning is kind of what it sounds like, is you abandon your own needs in interpersonal relationships. And it could be for a number of different reasons. A lot of times it could be.
Sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, no.
Situationally.
But
it goes further. It goes further than it's like an active thing that you do. So for example, like in my relationships, if I romantic relationships specifically, is I always put the other person's needs before my own.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm upset and I'm struggling, that doesn't matter. That's on the back burner, because if this person is upset in this moment, my stuff goes away. I don't care about it because I need to fix you. I need to fix your problems.
Oh my God.
And in that moment, I self-abandon my own needs in order to help the other person. There are times when you may need to do that, but it's kind of like when you are self-abandoning, it's kind of like an unconscious chronic thing that happens, at least in my case, not in everybody's case, but it is in my case.
You weren't aware.
Right. I wasn't even aware what self-abandoning was until very recently.
I wasn't either. Honestly, I was doing it for all of my life until a year ago, to some degree, because I couldn't put it to words. And, it makes, when you're not allowing yourself to get your needs met, because you are sacrificing constantly, you become angry and grumpy, and it's not it's a very unpleasant situation for the person and everyone around them to be in.
There are cases where people do benefit off of your self-abandonment, right? There are cases.
I'm sure that's a thing.
Yeah, there are cases in which there are people out there that will just let you do it and just be cool with it. I think that's the really interesting thing about my current relationship and that's why I've kind of noticed it a lot more, is because he realized it before I did, and he called me out on it, and kind of challenged me to be like, look, stop taking on all of my stuff. You don't need to feel my feelings. You don't need to fix my problems all the time.
When you were telling just a minute ago what self-abandonment is, you said, I will take my problem so I can fix this. You used the word fix. So you're a girl, and we've had this conversation before. You sometimes operate more like a guy.
I do. I do have a very
in terms of the way we're socialized.
Yeah. When you're in your masculine energy, you're trying to fix. You're solving problems, right? So there are often times where I am in my masculine energy because that was the way in which I was raised by my caregivers, right? Y'all heard me trauma dump on the CPTSD episode. And so when I was living in this enmeshed environment, the emotions of my caregivers were the biggest things that I had to take on, and my emotions didn't matter. I couldn't vocalize my needs. I couldn't, emotionally talk about anything.
You were already too busy. like, worrying about someone else.
Right. And so I learned that was just how it was. I learned that was like self-abandoning was my second nature. And so I found myself doing that and repeating that pattern in romantic relationships, in interpersonal relationships, in friendships, still in my family. And I think the coolest thing about it, not that there's anything cool about self-abandoning, but the coolest thing is that I figured out what it is so I can stop doing it.
Yeah, that's...
I got a question.
Yes.
So in the example that you gave, you had someone who was kind of in a crisis situation. And the way I took the example was this was something that you were going to solve here in an hour and a half or something. So you put your own needs aside for a little bit, but this has to be a systemic behavior.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think that, the more research that I do on self-abandonment, because it is still something that I'm very new with. So obviously do your own research, of course. But I think that, a self-abandoning, can oftentimes be chronic. There are times where it can be chronic and unconscious. Like in my specific circumstances, I didn't even realize that I wasn't putting myself into perspective at all in my relationships. I wasn't even actually conscious of it. Whatever.
Conscious, yes.
Yes, thank you. For a long time, until I realized like what self-abandonment was, until I realized what boundaries were, until I realized what was appropriate and what wasn't.
What was your first thought when you learned what self-abandonment was?
I was like, oh shit, that's me. It was like a coming to Jesus moment for me because I was like,
dude,
I think that you said this on a previous episode where it was like,
yeah. It just blows your freaking
it was
mind.
like a big moment for you.
Suddenly you're just like, wow, I can just, not be angry all the time. That's so helpful. That was my first thought.
So it's like you can actually put your needs into perspective, and that it's okay to put your needs into perspective. And it's actually very, very, very important to the health of the relationship to put your needs into perspective.
Yeah.
That's very true. But
that is super true.
Coming from that situation, how do you know that your needs are in perspective if your whole go-to for relationships up to that point was not in perspective?
Well, I will tell you, Bill, it has been quite the struggle.
Okay, I thought I was on something there. Yep.
It really has. Like, because coming from an environment where my needs didn't really matter, my needs didn't get met emotionally, specifically, having these interpersonal relationships where I've been in a relationship since I've been in like 18 years old. Like I had very small windows of time between jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship. And I thought it was, it just happens like that. No, it was like...
You need a new head therapist.
Oh my gosh.
Bro.
But yeah, so relearning what my needs are, what is okay to need, who I am.
Right.
Quite the little spiral that I've been going on. Still figuring it out, still working through it, but it is definitely something that there is. And I do want to say this too about relationships as well. And then, I can stop talking so much. But
you're preaching to the choir right now. Keep preaching.
Is that there is a certain amount of your trauma and a certain depth of your experience that can only be helped and facilitated through interpersonal relationships, through romantic relationships. I do not believe in the notion of loving yourself first before you love somebody else. There are certain things about yourself that you need to learn inside romantic relationships in order to love yourself. Had I not been in this relationship where he basically told me, like, stop taking care of me, I wouldn't have even realized that I was doing that. That was like a big thing. And there were so many like childhood trauma lessons that I learned in this relationship that I wouldn't have learned anywhere else because it took that romantic relationship for me to figure it out.
You got lucky, kind of, because you had somebody that could vocalize what was going on to you in a way that you understood and could. So you're right.
I feel like in order to love someone else the way they deserve, you have to be able to love yourself so you have love to give.
I don't believe that.
I don't think that's right.
You don't think so?
No. I think that, I think there is some truth to that. Yeah, I'm not going to completely disagree with that because I do agree that, you need to come into a relationship not bringing too many old open wounds. But there's only so much of that we can control, right?
And so you and yourself, your relationship with yourself is improved from a relationship with someone else.
Yes, and my trauma healing, for sure.
Trauma healing.
Because there were things about my trauma that I only were able to learn inside of my relationships. Like I wouldn't have been able to learn them any other way. And I think that was really
I'd say the same for me too.
And I should say, you know, a healthy relationship really, really helped me. He said, let me write this down.
I was writing down terms I don't know. Say it again. Healthy
so like having
healthy relationship. I've never heard of that in my life.
Right. At least having having healthy communication inside of a relationship was
that's
really,
huge.
really beneficial.
Yeah.
I was self-abandoning for so long that any romantic relationship I've been in up to this point has been in a similar position has been in the same position of, to some degree, my internal unhappiness was just like, you know, changing the way I was thinking constantly and making me somebody I didn't necessarily want to be all the time, you know? And now I'm getting to the point where I'm able to put things to words, like you said, and that's the power of being able to describe something. It's like, once I learned what it was and I could research it, I learned so much about what I needed and like just went for it. And that was just crazy.
Both you guys did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was very intense and so needed, and also terrifying because like, I haven't been there for myself for over 2 decades.
Yeah. And for me, it was, like, you know, never.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. There were a lot of situations in which I realized, like, damn, I've never put myself into perspective in the way that I should have. Like, I've never seen my worth in the way that I should have. And I'm just now at 28 years old, after being in therapy for over a decade, I'm just now realizing what my worth is outside of other people.
So fucking crazy.
You know,
the
things that I need in relationships, you know?
Yeah. And I didn't even think about that before. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, this sounds nice. This might be something I need.
Right.
Like,
and a lot of times too, like when we're in relationships, we go towards what's comfortable for us. And sometimes what's comfortable for us is dysfunction, because that's all we've ever known. Dude, like for me, that's why I continued those patterns was because they were all I knew. I knew was self-abandonment, you know?
Bro, I didn't like, I had made some friends that were musicians in school. I was just thinking about this the other night, but I didn't run into any creative storytellers. I felt like I was the only kid in marching band that was like a theater kid on the inside or something. You know, and it's just like,
nurture that part of yourself.
I didn't nurture that part of myself. I didn't believe in like my own abilities and, you know, stuff like that. And I just, all that time I just self-abandoned and didn't actually seek out what would be nice. I just kind of lived in fear of my own judgment and therefore other people's judgment. And so like it can, like and now that I'm, you know, I'm finally old and I'm, you know, I'm not in high school anymore,
right.
Obviously. And like, just now I'm discovering this about myself, and it's terrifying because I'm just like, wow, like how different would my life be if I had known this back then, you know,
I have that all the time.
Like what choices would have been the right ones? Like, and it fucking blows your mind. Like,
yeah. Cause I would go back and I would be like, I would have never gotten into any of these really terrible relationships and friendships that I was in, or even like jobs, or experiences in jobs.
Yes.
Like I would have never done any of that if I had a backbone and if I knew how to use it.
Oh my God.
I was walking around like this.
Exactly. Dude, we were ragdoll physics for...
I was like no bones girl for a while.
Here's good news for both of you. You forget all that shit when you get old.
That's the silver lining. Thank you, Bill.
I do say though, like I will say this, and I really hope that this brings some peace to a lot of people. Maybe people aren't here yet, but this is where I'm currently getting, is that like the amount of agency I have over my life now as an adult, I wouldn't ever want to go back to, you know, redo it all. Like to be a kid again or to do any of that. Like there's so many people that like miss their youth so much, and I don't at all, because me being young and me being a kid, meaning I had no control and no agency. And now that I'm an adult,
that's crazy,
and I have agency over my life. Yeah, I have bills and I have to do all of that really like annoying stuff. That adult stuff that's honestly really, really, really exhausting.
Yeah.
But But at the end of the day,
Bill.
I got a class for you.
We know.
Teach it here on the weekends.
Oh my God, dude! You go to that class. He'll give you extra credit if you just like distract everyone. By the way,
You made some really good points, and what I meant by you forget that shit is all those relationships that didn't last. I mean,
yeah.
But you do hopefully learn the behaviors.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
There were some I really had to do some very important work to heal from as well.
Yeah.
So I think that sticks with you too. I think and this is really just for,
that growth, being proud of yourself is huge.
and I think too, this kind of goes for any type of relationship. It doesn't really matter, whether you're struggling with mental health or trauma or anything. I think that a lot of people can, relate to the things that we've been saying.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think so too.
Just difficult to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents must have told me 1,000 times, you got to work on your marriage when you get married. Nobody ever told me how. Took a while to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Those things that nobody's going to tell you, and you could have heard. You just needed 2 sentences from the right person, But it's like,
You know what? That's a really good statement. And it's metaphorical for a lot of things. And you never know what your 2 sentences are going to mean to somebody at some time in their life.
yeah, you do. That's crazy to think about. Like any sentence, all it takes is like the words you need to hear at that time told to you in
exactly.
1 or 2 sentences.
And it can make a huge difference to that person.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned the mistakes in the relationship and no one told me how to work on my marriage, that's why I love peer support.
Yeah.
Because I get to learn what people did that helped.
Dude, and then be inspired from it. And
100%.
So let me ask you this, Bill,
Yep.
since you've been around the block a time or two longer than Nathan and I have. Walking and, realistically.
Really.
What is the biggest thing that you've learned from your relationships, your romantic relationships, and also your interpersonal relationships?
Good question.
That's a really good question. So I have 3 different lives. In the early part, you guys' age, I was really selfish. I don't know. I wasn't growing up.
Yeah. You're grown up now?
I'm getting there. Emotionally.
Yeah, I was about to say, not yet.
The last kind of relationship I had, I didn't even have it with a person. I had it with myself, but I was in a relationship with this person. Does this make sense yet?
No, explain.
So it was a bad relationship. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand why it was a bad relationship. So I created this person that didn't exist. This person I was dating did not exist.
Whoa.
It was not her fault. She was just being her.
Dude.
And I was changing things in my head.
You just blew my mind.
I think that there's a very profound quote that I like to always ground myself in, is that when they show you who they are, believe that.
Believe it.
Yeah.
Yep. My friend Leah told me that when I was driving to see this person. I was on Interstate 75, I do believe. And she said that, and I was like,
yeah.
what if you already passed that a lot of times, Leah? What do you do then? Mm-hmm. Didn't have an answer for that.
Yeah, oftentimes I think too, we'll fall in love with someone's potential, or we'll fall in love with the idea of them that we put in
what?
Yeah.
I had that conversation with my girlfriend. I said, look, don't buy the marketing brochure. This is what you get.
If you don't buy the marketing brochure.
If you need me to have a bigger house, if you need me to have a better job, you need to break up with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is you don't go out with somebody thinking they're gonna,
and especially you want to watch out for those red flags if you're out dating, because
my experience with people is, and I've known a lot of them, they not only don't rise to that, they go down.
Yeah, as someone that is I'm an extreme hopeless romantic. I don't think that anybody knows that about me, because I never lean into that. But
I'm pretty sure we have a clip of you going, I fall in love really quickly.
Yeah. No, yeah, we do.
Love the sarcasm. But
dude, no,
but no, seriously, and
that's
that's kind of a big kind of fatal flaw with myself, is that I'll lean into these big idealistic ideas of who people really are, or who I want this person to be, and
and
I
who
will
they could
maladaptive daydream our life together.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The new album,
Maladaptive Daydream.
No, and I will literally like imagine us like doing all these things, and I will just get like I will literally like dissociate on the highway, just like imagining like all of the stuff that we're doing together and like all of this kind of stuff.
I've done stuff like that.
Yeah, or like I'll get my hopes up about like before I go out on a date or before I date this person, I'll like get my hopes up and I'll dream about what like our relationship could be or what
you have a powerful imagination.
Could be. Yeah, it's oh my god, it saved my life when I was a kid, but it's honestly ruining my life now.
Well, hey, wait. Well, you gotta project good thoughts. You gotta have those kind of.
Those fantasies are
no, they really are like
powerful.
honestly, yeah, they're kind of life-saving for me in a lot of ways because my OCD will cling on to them. And instead of like clinging on to something like my health or the food that I'm eating or stuff like that,
if
like
it's like, oh, that would be nice, right?
Yeah.
And like enjoy that would be nice, even if it's not a potential future, you know?
But where
like,
I get really discombobulated is where it's like I turn it into reality, and that's my fucking issue. Like it's not just a daydream. I will literally feel like, and this is being a highly sensitive person.
I hear you. We're gonna do an episode on that.
Yeah, right. All of my acronyms. We just need to do an episode on like everyone that I got.
Everybody's acronyms. Just come on the show. We're gonna acronym you.
Right. SB.
We're not. Yeah, it's whatever you want. We're not gonna be like that. But yeah,
like,
anyway.
I will literally like feel those feelings that I like dream up in my brain, and that's where I get really like where the wires will get crossed because there were so many times where I got myself into situationships when I was in like high school or like middle school. Yeah, situationships.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep. Where like I imagined like so many like dreams and thoughts of this person, like all this romantic stuff and like meeting their family and getting along with their family and like all this stuff. And then like
took it too far.
Yeah, no. And then it's just like I actually hang out with them and like I'm around them and it's just like this isn't the person that I created in my brain, but like I pretend that they are, and it's just a whole thing.
All of a sudden you're at their house, their parents.
So it's like with my relationship now, it's so funny because him and I met when I was literally 17 years old working at a pizza place. We worked at the pizza place, and I used to maladaptive daydream about him all the time.
Oh, you were there. That was like a sitcom movie scene about to happen.
And then I literally like we meet again is what I like to call it. Like I see him again for the first time since I've been 17 years old, and it was like I had to live out the maladaptive daydream, and 3 years later, like here we are, still in a relationship.
Well, dude, I like him, so I'm glad.
Dude, have you ever thought about like using that power for the sake of good?
I
like
feel
the maladaptive daydreaming, you'd be a great writer. You could just like
I am a writer. What do you mean? I am a great writer.
You are a great writer, but what I mean is you could write like a novel. Like
I have written a novel, but I have not published it.
Oh, okay.
I've actually written multiple.
Really?
Yes.
Look at this. I was. What do you know? It looks like I was on character right there for her. I know. And oh my god. So that's can I read them sometime?
Because
that was so fast.
Some of them are of the smut variety, so I'm not going to share those with anybody.
That is a guilty pleasure. So many people have. You have no idea.
That's true, but
like that is way less. I know. I have friends like I have friends I know that for a fact that they're into that stuff, and it's like it's good for them. It's more common than you might think.
I don't know about all that, but if you need an illustrator, I'd do dogs.
I don't know if anybody.
Hey, that's freehand. With no tracing, that's freehand from memory.
I'm just trying to connect that to like the context of what we were just talking about.
Honestly, amazing.
So
funny.
You said acronyms. Somebody said acronyms or initials.
You said dog.
And I asked you to add BAMF to your card.
oh, yeah.
Because that's what you are.
I try to be.
It's true. That's true.
Try to be. We all try to be.
Yeah. I'm gonna plug her. Amanda has an Instagram that is poetry Instagram. Words by Astod.
ASTOD.
Oh my god, I missed the S and T. Yes. Look at. I'm gonna link it, and I will link it in the description. And yeah, she's a beast with the words, dude.
I write a lot about trauma, so trigger warning for anybody that wants to engage with my content.
Bro, that's me too. Like the songs I'm working on, like hello. Like, man, it's so therapeutic. Like,
have you guys ever cheated on anyone?
I did.
No.
Oh yeah, that's right.
No, never.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up.
That's okay.
I never did, never would.
So, This is really interesting that we can have a platform to do this.
You want to hear something really interesting?
Yeah.
Cheating is really curious because who gets to define what cheating is?
Yeah, you see,
I'm pretty sure there is a definition of cheating.
But I also think that people in authority can misuse it.
What does it mean to you guys?
Good question. Is this part of relationships?
Yes.
I'm asking Nathan because he set it up.
I'm loving where this is going. I'm living for this.
He said, I didn't want to go here.
What was the question? For real.
What is cheating to you? What is your definition of cheating?
Yeah, here's the deal. So I was talking to this girl I was dating, and she's like, we were doing that game. We're Not Really Strangers. Just badass. That's fun stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like, what does love mean to you? And she's like, it's just, all you think about them all the time, and blah. And I'm like, no. Love is you wake up every morning and you say, I choose, and you fill in the blank.
I agree with that. That's really sweet.
And every day. And she's like, really? I said, love is a decision. It's not a feeling.
Ooh.
Can you say that one more time?
Where did I hear that? I've heard that before. Love is a decision. Love is not a feeling.
Love is a decision.
I literally texted that to my friend the other day, I swear.
Love is a decision. It's a decision to give in to what you want and what they want, and in hopes that they would want to do the same thing. You know what I mean?
No, it's just a decision to pick that person and put them first every day.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, put the partnership first.
Yeah. Like you have to be able to like be on a love level with someone if you catch my drift. Like it needs to be a give and take according to your love languages.
Like Brene Brown.
Yeah, it does, but that's not my responsibility to make the other person do anything.
Exactly. It's just if it works, it works, and if it doesn't,
I love that Brene Brown clip where she's basically
the one about marriage.
Yeah, where 10%? She's basically like, some days I'm only going to be able to bring 10%. I need to be able to, count on you to be able to bring, the other 90%. And if you can't bring me that other 90% and you only also have 10% that day, we got to sit down and we got to talk it out and we got to figure it out.
That's a great little video.
That is,
we'll put that in the description.
That is beautiful.
That's exactly right. She and her husband are both very busy, and they have this little system, and they'll come home and he's like, I got 50. And she's like, I got 50. We're good. Or he'll come home and say, I got 70. And she's like, good, because I only got 20.
Yep.
That's really cool stuff. Whatever it is that you can quantify it, so that you both understand where you are, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that's just like a beautiful way of communicating. But
you know what? I imagine being married to her. No.
What? Oh no!
Can't be that great.
He does it too, Amanda. He does it too.
You never answered the question.
What was the question?
What's your definition of cheating?
I'm good at that.
That's not a definition.
No, I'm bad at that. Well, yeah, it's anything that doesn't put that person, first, in specifically in relation to another person of that same sex.
Okay.
Or of whatever you're attracted to.
Because I could just be a bad partner because I spend too much time doing whatever it is, putting needles in Nerf darts.
And shooting them at the wall.
Which she's totally into, so we're good.
See, there you go, dude. If she wants to, is she the real one? If she doesn't want to shoot Nerf darts into the wall and make them stick, she's
just not the real one for Bill Brown.
Yeah,
she could be a real one in general, just not the real one.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but that's his real one. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's that question you can talk about for weeks, I think. But
what is cheating?
It goes back to my question, which was who gets to define cheating? I'm pretty sure it's the person that feels like they got cheated on.
Yeah. And I think there's a pretty clear definition of what cheating is. I guess you're right that some people look at it very differently, but for me, it's very black and white.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I was going to say at some point we can segue into, because I actually have been cheated on. And I know it.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah. You didn't ask that question.
Yeah. It's just, so I know that side. And the absolute anger and just frustration.
So for me, it wasn't physical cheating. For me, it was emotional cheating.
There you go.
It was physical. Yeah, that's for me, it was physical.
Asking.
Yeah, because in my situation, I was dating this guy. Shout out to him.
Him.
For 2.5 years, and we got to a point where we were fighting you know, a lot. And just like, we were just like butting heads and stuff. And he was in the shower one afternoon, and something in me just said, look through his phone.
Shit.
I don't do that kind of stuff. That's not something that I like doing, but I do have my toxic girl moments. I'm sure we all have. But I was 18 years old and I was still dealing with very toxic family matters. I didn't know how to be in a relationship. I didn't. You know, I grew up in a family where they didn't prioritize each other at all.
Nobody grows up knowing how to be in a relationship.
Right. So, you know, I was always scared of being cheated on. Oh, it was like a huge fear for me. So I was looking through his phone here and there, from time to time. It's not my finest moment, I will say. Not proud of it, but glad that I did in this moment. Because I looked through his phone, I found text messages from like 3 months prior to where he was messaging his ex-girlfriend saying, you're the love of my life. I want you to be the mother of my children. I am in love with you. I can't imagine my life with anybody but you. So imagine my surprise when I'm the one at your house in your bed reading this text message that you sent to your ex-girlfriend 3 months ago, and I had no idea about it.
God.
And she's the one you want to marry and have kids with? Great. Fantastic. See you later. So that's emotional cheating to me because...
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that 100% is emotional cheating. That is, he's committing to someone else while in a commitment.
But I will say, I did end up getting back together.
Oh, you got back together with him?
Getting back together with him because I had, and this is what I'm talking about, self-abandonment, no self-worth.
Dude, like I forgave the person who cheated on me multiple times.
Yeah, and I got back together with him. It didn't last very long because I was just like, I didn't give, actually it was honestly, other than like the first 6 months of our relationship, it was the best we've ever been because I did not give a shit.
Yeah, I've been there. When you don't give a fuck anymore.
And it was honestly, we were just like chilling, just friends hanging out. And that's when it was honestly the best.
You know what? And see, that's what it should have been, right? Like, you know, like we learned that. Like,
yeah, but
see, I'm glad that it was, I'm glad that could happen.
Yeah, but then like,
it could have been a lot worse.
But then I exited that relationship very toxically. I will own that. And I think, you know, sometimes that's what we have to do. We have to learn lessons and call ourselves out on our shit.
Hell yeah.
Oh, dude. Oh my God. That's part of growing. That's what you need to do. And I will admit that. I have
been a toxic person in relationships before.
I have too. I've been the toxic person myself. I totally get it. Like I went a long time without knowing like anybody who wanted to make shit and tell stories. And I kind of touched on this earlier. So when I finally did meet somebody, you know, like in college, you know, I wanted to hang out with them all the time. And I was kind of invasive because I was just like, oh my God, someone who actually wants to talk about this stuff finally. Yeah. And so in that moment, I was being selfish to the degree that I needed to fulfill this part of myself that is desperate.
Yeah, you were using another person to fill that.
Yeah, and so it was like just the ability, having someone who can keep up with me and keep creative pace with me was just so satisfying. But I became aware of that, and now I know that the solution to my problem is meet more creative people.
Yeah.
Like, because that's just what I'm lacking in my life. Like,
exactly.
you know,
so you don't put all of that on one person. I think that's actually a really, really great point.
Yeah.
Because we do sometimes put, like, I've done this for a very, very long time in my relationships, is that I put all of the emotional pressure. You know, this was a big downfall in the beginning of, you know, my first relationship where I got cheated on, is I really did become very reliant on him to meet all of my emotional needs, right? Like I would kind of distance myself from my friends, from my family, and he kind of became like my sole support system. And that's not healthy. You can't have just one person be your sole support system. You have to have many people in your support system so that you have, and now, which is great, I have many like facets of supports. So depending on what the circumstances, I'll know who in my group to go to, right? Like if I'm dealing with something, you know, relationship wise, I know that I go to my one friend. If I'm dealing with something like work wise and I just want to bitch, I go to my one friend, right? If I'm dealing with something like
regulation
internally, I talk to my boyfriend. Like there is like, but I don't go to him for everything, right?
Yeah,
and that's how it has to be.
And like you're saying, like finding that fulfillment, that self-fulfillment through another person it can be such a positive, powerful experience because they can lift you up where you can't do that for yourself. Yeah. And I think that's the beautiful thing about being in a relationship and you have baggage is if the other person has their own and you can like, you know, go back and forth about just what you need because you both have experience with the pain. And, you know, it's so that it can really help with that.
When you're struggling with mental health issues while being in a relationship, it can be really difficult because for me, it's hard for me to sometimes see, you know, outside of my mental health issues, like what is my trauma, what is my, you know, CPTSD, what is my OCD, and what is actually like a rift in the relationship. So it's really difficult to kind of parse those things out.
What I heard you say was difficult for you to be objective about yourself.
Yes.
Same. I think we're all that way.
Yeah.
You've heard me say we live in a box and I can't see inside my own box. I need people outside my box to say, your box is fucked up.
Yeah.
Dude, exactly. Like you got holes in your box, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
that's critically important.
Absolutely. That's actually like a huge takeaway from me after this episode. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course. And I think that's important to put into perspective is that we carry pieces with us into these relationships. And there are often times when people are going to poke at those pieces, but it's not necessarily the person that is causing, you know, the reaction. Sometimes those reactions can come from a different place.
Well, I don't know if we did this on the podcast, but, you know, I had that conversation with my girlfriend early on. Hey, if I'm not responding, you know, neurotypically to your kindness, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Someone else did that that work for you.
Yeah. And I think too, like, sometimes in romantic relationships, our partners can feel like, well, why are you punishing me for something someone else did?
Yeah,
right?
that's why I had that conversation.
Yeah,
right
so
up front.
So it's important to be like transparent about that stuff, and like sometimes like it's important to put into perspective that like it can be unconscious, like it can be something that, you know, we're not even fully aware of that it came from this place.
Absolutely.
A lot of my relational trauma comes from my parents, and I don't even realize it until I'm in that situation. Till I'm in that situation where I'm like, oh, I'm reacting very, very like not cool in this situation. And it's because it triggered this, you know, abandonment wound or like whatever wound that I have. And, you know, let me come back and own that. And we talk about it and we work through it. I think that's really important.
Holy shit. Because sitting and talking about that really does work to it. I've had some awesome conversations with my dad recently that have done the same, that have done this. We just, we're just spending more time together. He drove me up to the music store today to get another microphone, and we were like talking about we were just joking around and talking about whatever.
That's awesome.
I love you mentioned finally we got to mental health in a relationship. We didn't really address that at all. We just talked about what everybody goes through, bringing their past into a relationship and how to deal with that. Do you want to talk about the mental health piece?
I mean, I think it's really important. I mean, I think that, you know,
I agree.
I think too that, you know, we talked a little bit about like the way that trauma and our upbringing and caregivers and stuff affect our interpersonal relationships. But I think too that learning and understanding about your partner's mental health issue is so important. Yeah. And because there are some aspects of it that like are hard for people who struggle to even explain. So I think like if you do have a partner that is struggling with their mental health, do research on what they're struggling with. I think that's so important. And have conversations.
If you have a partner, they will be struggling with their mental health at some point. Yeah. Everybody does. It doesn't have to be systemic, but it's going to happen.
And I think taking that initiative to like learn about it, because there was
being
so much
prepared to learn about it.
Yeah.
That initiative.
What were you gonna say?
I'm writing it down actually. So we talked earlier about diagnoses, and I said where I am, I'm all about symptom management. Yeah. And it's kind of the same thing in the relationship for me, because at my age, we've all been through it. We just have. Everybody has. So what is it that you need from me?
I think that's so important. Yeah, because going into a relationship knowing what you need, right?
Yeah.
Like Nathan said earlier, love languages, right? I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Like knowing what it is that you specifically want and need from a relationship, not what society tells you should want and need, but what you specifically want.
You know how we know what our love languages are? Because we did the worksheets.
Yeah. And also you can take the love language test online. I will say
I will link it in the description.
My buddy, my girlfriend and I did that. I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna start making a list of the things.
The more you get ahead of the curve on the mental health piece before you have to address it, the better off it's going to be.
Yeah, like you have those open conversations in the beginning of your relationship. I think that was...
So they're as prepared to handle it as possible.
We've done a shit ton of work, she and I. I mean, from the get-go. Here's the best thing that we've done, she and I.
Okay.
So there are, you know what emojis are. You guys knew this before I did.
Bro, what's an emoji?
So there's a green square with a white check in it, and that means adulting. And we use
it. That's bet. Yeah, that's
if
make a list. Like
worked, she's a nurse and RN. If she's worked 3 12s in a row, she doesn't want to come over. She's like, hey, I got to take care of myself. Green, white check mark. I'm like, thank you. That's awesome. Because you know what? That makes it really cool when we get together. So, yeah.
That's really awesome. And I think, too, like, that's another thing about self-abandoning is I was self-abandoned for a long time and just still, like, if I was burnt out, I'd still go and hang out with that person when I knew that I needed to check in with myself and take care of myself.
Anywhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really cool. You guys have that open line of communication, and that started from the jump.
Yeah,
right. Like you guys started that really early because you both are very self-aware, and I think that's really important.
That is super important.
And having that communication too can even increase your self-awareness.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Yeah. I'm learning stuff
exponentially.
I'm learning stuff all the time. Yeah. And as far as being grown up and having a good relationship. Oh man, I shouldn't have said that. So far, it's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
and I think it's good to celebrate that. It's good to celebrate that,
is, dude.
And I think I wanted to ask, what is the thing that has worked the best in your relationships, romantic, interpersonalized, professional?
One word, no question. I will stand by this. There are very few hills I will die on, but this is one: forgiveness.
Yeah.
Unpack that.
Whoever it is, we all hurt each other. We all do shitty stuff.
Yeah,
we do. Sometimes we do it on purpose.
But don't over forgive if you're self-abandoning. Right?
For me, I know that there are very few things someone could do to me that I would not forgive. That love conversation that we had, she was right about this is what I expect when I fall in love with someone. I want that feeling and all those giddy things and that wonderful stuff. But I was right too, in that when you're in the relationship, when you have made this commitment, it's an everyday decision thing.
Yeah.
Every day.
Definitely.
And Amanda and Nathan, I forgot what I was talking about. Can you give me
forgiveness?
The prompt?
Forgiveness.
Yeah. Yes.
Forgiveness. We got him.
So
this train ain't derailed.
I have 2 really quick stories. The one about forgiveness, I was listening to the radio and they were talking to a couple that had been married like 72 years or something ridiculous. And they asked the lady, what was the key to the longevity? And she said forgiveness. And I was like, bullshit. But it is for me. I mean, that's where I've gotten to. I wish I was there. I've gotten there. And the other story is same situation, married many years, 60 years, I think. She was 82 and he was 85 and he killed her. And the police arrested him and they asked him why. And he said, I just couldn't take it anymore. So
that
goes both ways, right?
Oh my God.
He was just that vengeful enough to have to murder someone.
I think the man had just had it. I can't take anymore. So forgiveness. Yeah.
Okay. Nathan?
And I'm not done yet.
Okay. Enlighten us.
And that's an individual thing, Nathan, like you brought up. I may have the capacity to forgive a whole lot more than somebody else for a certain person or for everybody. I don't know. But I'm the one that gets to define that.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't get to tell me I have to forgive you.
Okay.
I get to make that decision.
I like that. Nathan?
That is so true. I was told when I learned that someone cheated on me that they kept it from me for 2 years.
Oh!
And and then when they told me, they said it's okay because it was just the first week we were dating. Like, I hope it would be okay because it was the first week we were dating. And I was like, well, how do I forgive this? Like,
holy shit.
You know?
2 years into the damn relationship.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I was fucking shook.
How did you,
I was self-abandoning, so I forgave them. Yeah. And so, you know,
if you could go back and do it again, would you leave them in that moment?
I think so.
That was a pretty powerful moment right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't get me wrong. The person I'm talking about is an awesome person.
Oh, yeah.
But
I mean, we all fuck up and make mistakes.
yeah,
Doesn't
man.
necessarily mean we're bad people, but
You know what's
they're
crazy
awesome in
too?
their way, and you know, and it's great. It's you know, if I wasn't self-abandoning, yeah, probably.
yeah, you would have known your worth in that moment.
Yeah.
So what's the most...
Whoa. This is 2 years after it happened.
Yeah.
And it happened the week you met her?
The week we started dating. Bad sign.
That's extenuating circumstances to me. It's just to me. I mean, if it had happened 2 years into the relationship, then yeah, that's a tough one. But if she told you, she brought it up.
She didn't bring it up until 2 years ago, and she
shouldn't have brought it up.
Well,
She should have told you earlier, so you could have made that judgment call
She was really upset
at that point.
Yeah, she was really upset at that point, because she knew it was going to hurt me, you know, and so it was easier to forgive. But I wish them the best, honestly.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit I don't need to know.
Yeah, facts.
That's
Except my inner... No, I have to know everything.
Yeah.
I would like to agree with you, but for some reason
I
in
can
my
see
brain,
that
I
in
have
you.
to
And
know
the way you were
everything.
raised, I get that because you were always on watch. You know, I get that.
I can't, like, getting taken off guard or inconsistency or unreliability. All of those things, very big triggers for me.
Oh,
Very, very big triggers for me. So.
Unreliability, oddly enough, doesn't bug me anymore because I dealt with it in a past relationship. You know what I mean?
I'm just talking, like in relationships and like in every aspect of my life, really.
and yeah, apparently it was for an ADHD thing too, because I hadn't texted her like all week. So I don't know. I guess there's something, I don't know what I was going through, but it's like that's where the mental illness angle comes in.
Yeah, I have friends too, like on the topic of conversation or relationships as well. Like I have friends too that struggle with ADHD and I won't hear from them for months. But then like they'll text me like, hey, do you want to go get brunch? And I'm like, sure, yeah, let's hang out. Like, I was so happy to hear from you. Like, yeah. And because I'm meeting them where they're at in that moment. And I know that that's just how they operate. But I know if I were to call them at 3 a.m, they'd be there, right? Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't hear from them very often. And yeah, like they don't always respond to my text messages, but I understand that that's how their brain works. And I'm okay with that.
The older you get, the more important that is to realize.
Yeah. Because if that were to happen to me in middle school, I would have been pissed.
Yeah.
I would have been so upset because I had such a big abandonment wound. But I think, you know, helping myself out with that abandonment wound helped me foster stronger relationships with other people and are able to, you know, uplift myself as well in those relationships. So I don't have to put so much pressure on them to perform.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. You okay over there?
Yeah, sorry.
Did we just open a wound?
Sure
that we need
my brain is reeling a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, how can we close this wound for you in this moment?
Good job.
Thank you for saying that. Basically,
We don't want to leave here with open wounds.
Thank you.
yeah,
But
basically.
I do want to say, too, I want to validate you and your experience because that would really upset me and piss me off and really throw me for a loop because that's so unexpected after spending 2 years with somebody. And for 2, that was not your fault.
And I agree with all that. It would do all those things to me too, no question. But I'm pissed about feelings. The more I think lately this has been happening, I'm mad that I can get feeling about something. It
Yeah.
affects me emotionally so much that I can't do what I need to do, or I can't think.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I'm at.
2 months later, I don't feel it anymore.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
That's
ridiculous.
wild.
It just be like that. Also, last thing, I said, did you do it again? Was there another time? And she admitted another time.
Oh.
Okay, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like she was going to keep that from me if I hadn't asked. So
Wow.
at least that was my interpretation of that moment. So
Well, you definitely deserve better than that.
yeah,
And none of that was your fault. And that does not have anything to do with who you are as a person.
yeah.
I think that was something I struggled with when I got cheated on, is I blamed myself.
Yeah.
Much
Yeah.
like I do
Yeah.
with
Dude.
a lot of
Nothing to
things.
do with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with that person and whatever thing inside of them that made them feel like that was something necessary to do at the time.
Right. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
It's powerful.
So let me ask you, what is the best, most positive thing that you've learned
Ooh, through this?
from any kind of relationship? Like, what is like a key trait that you think makes a healthy, good relationship?
Creative collaboration.
Okay. I like that.
Every single one of my best friends, I can keep up with their ideas. They can keep up with mine, and we work together to write stories. I just want to do that all the time. So for me, creative collaboration is like key to close relationships.
I like that. And I think that's a good way to be like, to experience catharsis in a relationship as well. And I think for me, it probably would be communication.
Communication.
I think that's the biggest thing that I need in relationships and the biggest thing that helps me out in relationships. And I think that benefits any type of my relationships, whether it be professional, personal, romantic, that talking through things and fleshing it out and having that dialogue is so important. Because there's so much like regulating that can happen in conversations and through that communication.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
What do you mean?
There's so much regulating that can happen through conversations.
So much you can like flesh out, and you can like say something is bothering you and it's really, really stressing you out.
Like improve the process?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like something's really stressing you out. So you talk about it with somebody, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is really like what happened. And this is how they were feeling about that. And this is how I'm feeling about that. So sometimes just talking about a situation can literally regulate us.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
really important.
And also like fleshing
I
it
just want to
out.
make sure I got the words
Yeah.
right.
And like fleshing it out with another person can also be really, really helpful for like co-regulation, regulating together, and to like, sometimes stuff is just miscommunication.
Have you ever had
Yeah.
one of those conversations where you realized that you were talking about two completely different events?
Oh my God. Yes. All the time. Dude, it's crazy.
Yep.
Two completely different events. And then then there was just there was a connection. Both of you thought there was a connection, but you both thought something else. And then it's like, what did we even talk about? Like nothing. Like,
I mean, that's why nonverbal communication is so critical to me.
yeah.
I'm not good with texting and email, so I've given it up.
I'm good with texting as long as we're talking about ideas or just or if I know the person well enough.
I'm good with texting, and I think texting is an important part of my process because of the fact that like when I'm in the moment of like a heated discussion or there's any kind of conflict, I do a lot of fawning, where it's basically like I cater to the other person and make sure that they're okay. And like, I just want to like kiss ass until this conflict is over. And I don't stand up for myself. I self-abandon. I don't stand up for myself in those moments. And I don't say the things that I want to say because conflict feels so uncomfortable for me. I just need to figure it out and I just need to solve it.
Yeah.
So I fawn in those moments.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm texting, it's a lot easier for me to regulate and I don't fawn as much and I'm able to stick up for myself.
Oh, I agree with all those things 100%. It's just, that's much easier for me, and I can think about it when I'm doing it. But I just don't have a lot of faith that what's being communicated just with typed words
Agreed.
is what
Definitely
what
agree.
I want to communicate.
Definitely agree. And other people can take that
Right.
and like read it in like a bitchy way, even though you were trying to be kind. There's so much other stuff with text messaging. That's why I like voice messages. I like doing little audio messages sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
I started recording just videos and saying what I wanted to say and sending it.
That's really smart.
Instead
I like
of
that.
spending, an hour trying to type it out and them
Yeah.
not get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. I think this was a great episode.
Dude, that was
me
this.
too.
I needed this. I loved opening up about this stuff. And Amanda, you just blew my mind like 4 times in one episode. And Bill, you blew my mind multiple times. Like this has been I feel like the realest conversation we've had on this podcast yet.
I survived the relationship episode.
You did, and you did not go into the fetal position.
Nope.
So
At
proud
the bottom
of you.
of the shower, running cold water.
So proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for walking a few miles with us in our issues.
Thank you guys for being here.
We are the In Our Issues crew. That
I'm
includes
Amanda.
you. She's Amanda.
He's Nathan.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Bill.
And he's Bill. And we'll see you next time.
Peace and love.
Where did you put my Nerf darts with the needles?
Thanks for listening, In Our Issues crew. We'll be back next month with more hot takes on mental health.